Welcome to Washington State Legends of Soccer and our history series, Why History Matters. I'm Frank MacDonald. Today, our guest is Jamie Clark. Jamie, of course, is head coach of the Washington Huskies. He played at both North Carolina and Stanford, then played professionally, including a few seasons in MLS. Since 2011, his Huskies have won 2 Pac-12 championships and reached the NCAA quarterfinals or beyond 4 times, including a College Cup runner-up finish in 2021. Welcome, Jamie.
Frank, thank you for having me. It'll be a fun conversation today.
All right. I believe we first corresponded or met when you were marking shortly after coming to Montlake, the 50th anniversary of UW Varsity Soccer. So right there, I detected that history mattered to you. And that seemed to be one of the pillars you erected as soon as you arrived on Montlake to create a culture. And part of that culture is history. Is that fair to say?
No, 100%. I think there was a lot of history at this program. It was not necessarily archived as well as it should have been. And I think it was a miss. So we've been scrambling for the whole decade I've been here to try to piece back together, whether it's old media guys, whether it's starting new traditions, whether it's building on old traditions. I don't know. It's the linking force between, those before us and even gives us purpose to what we're doing today. So very important.
What else do you want your program culture to be known for? And where does that come from? Is it your college experience, your coaching experience?
I think, pillars is always an interesting one because I think to each individual, they will always take, more importance in something maybe rather than the other. But as a whole, couple big wins for me are joy, gratitude, and bravery. And I think I saw those, I'm lucky. I'm from a soccer family with my father being a coach and a player for a long time. So I got to see my father, who said he never worked a day in his life, but coached for 30 plus years. So the joy he had every day, he was grateful to be part of institutions that supported him and supported his student athletes. And then watching the guys who did the best was and were the bravest and the guys who took chances. So those are the 3 big ones for me. And it's watching, I've been fortunate to be part of a lot of programs, not just as a coach, but as just a bystander and a fan. And when you're doing that, you see all these things sort of mark or last a kind of measure of time. And so we're sticking with them and we think they're very important.
So as a college coach, you only get to work with young people for, 4 or 5 years would really be pushing it these days. You lose some after a year or 2, but are they still impressionable? Can you instill in them values, or do they already come ready to go? Or can you what from the culture you instill? Can you get that across in 4 to 5 years?
No, certainly. I mean, and you're spot on. We get some for 5, some for 2, different measures of time. I think we can leave a lasting imprint in them. And I never believe that we're capable of changing too many people 180 degrees but I think 10 degrees or shifting focus is very important. So I think we can do that, right? Players come in a lot of times thinking that they're stars and it's about them, and you're trying to get them to have a little bit more of a team and holistic viewpoint of the game and where it will take you and what you can do with it. Because you start to get to an age where kids start realizing, my 8-year-old probably still thinks he can be messy, right? And maybe by 18 you realize, hey, I can still play the game, but I'm probably not retiring from the game at this point. So we're in a great age where hopefully we can make sure that they recenter them around that joy piece, and then also, maximizing as much as we can do as a group and as an individual.
All right, that's cool to know. It's probably a different culture around college soccer than when you were even playing. I guess you were playing in the 90s. There was a pro league to go to, so but would you say more people are focused on that now than they were when you were in school?
Certainly. I mean, there's just it has changed, and it's changed in large part thanks to a lot of the trailblazers and the sort of blue collar soccer players that has come before us, right? Those are the guys who didn't have a clear pathway necessarily, at least within the United States, didn't have the money wasn't the same. They had to do it for different reasons. Now, I mean, there's enough cases and situations of American kids, really being successful, whether it's domestically, internationally, and making a lot of money. So I think that's a driving force for a lot of kids. But I think we always have to be realistic. And that's why I said, I mean, that's why college athletics is so important. Very, very few, even the top, are going to retire from the game. So you try to make sure that they're prepared for life as well as being prepared for soccer.
All right. Your family, you mentioned your father, and is that a photo behind you of, I'm trying to see who, up on the wall there.
Certainly I can move this, but like my dad and myself, and then history would have my dad and my brother above me. So that's my dad and my brother's teams are the teams I grew up watching and ball boying for. And still a lot of those guys I'm in touch with. And even though I was the 8 to 14-year-old around those teams, and then I was fortunate enough to play for my dad for 3 years.
And then you just took the Huskies to Scotland this past summer, and obviously that's where your family is rooted. So did your family history catch up to you there? Did you have to buy a meal or anything, or were they waiting for you? And were you playing on a field named Clark or anything like that?
It's a very, I left when I was in 4th grade. So, my older brother was in 10th grade when we left Scotland. So he has a better understanding and perspective of where we were. And when I did go back and play a few times, I never really took it, I never embraced quite the history of what he had done and achieved. And it was pretty cool for our guys to even see it in terms of the family history that's there. And so we're playing at Aberdeen, and their youth academy is named after, it's the Bobby Clark Youth Academy. And just, there's, any older kind of statesman, you have a conversation with your cab driver, your whatever, you could usually lean on them knowing who he was and having a story or two. So it was very fun. I thought, if you want to talk about Scotland as a whole, I thought the coolest part for me was watching our guys. They associate with Manchester United. They associate with, because almost like they're not that dissimilar to this. They've got more history than the Seahawks or the, teams like that. But they're just these huge franchise organizations. But going down the leagues to the 2nd division, the 3rd division, the Highland League, was really, really something unique for them to see, because the history of the smaller clubs in Britain that maybe have been bigger clubs, and before TV sort of wiped them out a little bit, they're going into these old stadiums and seeing, man, there's history. They're the center point of these towns. I don't know if, sidebar, I don't know if you're watching the Welcome to Wrexham show, but
I am. I love it.
Right. And it's the history of the town, and they love it. And it was sort of those little openings for our guys to see that that's where the sport is a little bit different, that these towns and communities really, really have rooted for these teams for, a century now.
Yeah. Well, I took my wife, this is back in the 80s, to a game at Stirling. I think it was Stirling Albion, or there's 2 clubs in Stirling. Man, it was the pits. It was a wheelbarrow parked between us and the field, and it was blowing the gravel or whatever it was off the top, and it was May, so I can only imagine in the winter.
It really does. I think it's one of those things that tests your love, right? And if you're able to withstand that, then you really like something.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, what did you know about Washington's, and I wanted to say the college, but yes, the college too, but Washington soccer past and potential when you arrived here, like what you saw from afar or what you quickly came up to speed on. I'm just kind of curious.
I probably arrived in not knowing as much as I should, but I learned pretty quickly what a great soccer town this is. And it's, again, my dad played in '76 for San Antonio, so he played in the Kingdom. He played in all these places. So anytime I go anywhere, he's always like, "Oh, he's got a great story about playing in these old stadiums," and that sadly, but many of them don't exist, right? Or maybe for the better, I don't know. But very quickly you start just meeting with people and chatting with yourself and starting to hear these names, and whether it's there's just so many great people that have been a part of it. So as a whole, I started to get to know, man, Seattle's got this rich history, and there's sort of, I call it like the royal family of like like the Seattle soccer circuit. And then UW in itself had this great history, and I obviously knew, because I played against Dean, and Dean, I worked, I have known Dean Wurzburger very well, and he had such a great many years here. So that
Mhm.
was the piece I knew directly. And then I guess because Jimmy Gabriel was his assistant and worked with him, and my dad was a huge Jimmy Gabriel fan, that we had a connection there too. But I didn't know, but very quickly I got to know, Ron Jepson, the first coach that was at UW,
Yeah,
reached out, and he lives in Bellingham now, great guy. And, but, tried to bring him in, and just, that knowledge and tradition. And then, Frank Gallo's been unbelievable since I've been here. And we're actually celebrating his 1982 team this Friday. And so we're trying to appreciate and learn as we go, because there's plenty more that I still don't know.
yeah,
But it's I'm trying to be as open and to learning as I possibly can be, because there's a lot to learn.
cool. So I've always wondered, Ziggy was very big in the formative days of the Sounders about, the challenge of make your own history. So I'm curious, when you're talking to your athletes, how often do you play that angle where you say, this is our chance to make history? Because last year certainly those Huskies did. I'm just kind of curious how it comes into motivational purposes or challenging your players.
No, certainly there's two sides to it for sure. And I think one part is knowing your history with your guys, and that's part of our gratitude pillar, right? Like, a lot of people came before us, a lot of people laid our foundation, right? So we have to be proud of that. But part of that gratitude is also, man, we have this opportunity to go do something special now, because we have all the resources to do it. We're thankful for those. And I think that the best way to show your gratitude is to do the very most you can on the field, or just in life. So make the most of your opportunity. And so, yeah, I mean, I got to one of the biggest kind of most appealing things of this program was there was history to be made. And as I said, a lot of great coaches before me, a lot of great teams. I mean, they'd gone up to number one in the rankings, quite a few times along the history of it. But somehow, and and NCAA tournaments are cup play, right? And cup play
Mhm.
can be cruel. And I remember my 99 or 2000 it was, I thought UW was the best team we saw all year, and somehow they lost to UCLA in the second round. UCLA go win the NCAA tournament, and Ziggy wins the national championship. So it kind of all comes full circle there. But at the same time, like that, this team had never gotten past the second round, and so it was quite exciting to say, hey, there's history to be made. Let's go make it. Let's go do it. And we certainly made history by going further a few times and getting to an Elite Eight after a couple years, and then we repeated that feat a few more times. And it started to get daunting actually last year. It was like, man, if we go to four and don't get through one of them, like, does it start to become this kind of weight on your shoulders? But the guys were unbelievable last year, wanted to do something special. And, I think you prepare yourself and then hopefully get a little bit of good luck along the way. And I think, we did a bit of both, and history was made, and it was incredible. We rallied, I think the team deserved it, because they really did. They've done a lot of great things and deserved a national championship, or national championship experience, I should say. And then I think the alumni, man, there's been so many great alumni that have been around this program and have done so many good things, both here, both professionally, both as a soccer professional, whatever it might be. So those guys, getting them excited about, this place again was awesome. And then the community rallied around it. So I was happy. Obviously, a lot of different soccer, entities have done really well. So to get the community rallied around your club here, it means it's going to take something special. And we did something special last year.
For sure you did. And I'm looking forward to coming out later this week to see those guys from the 80s you're talking about. Lastly, I was just going to ask, and this can be taken from anywhere in your life, but what history feat you've witnessed or taken part in that you most appreciate? Maybe it was your brother or your dad or your own, or maybe it was as a fan, but I'm just kind of curious about that. That's something that sticks with you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things. Obviously, recent history always sticks out the easiest, right? It's in there. So I do think getting the College Cup with this team, with it didn't come, maybe if it had come after when we went to the Elite Eight my third year here, and lost to New Mexico. And that was actually, funnily enough, the year that my dad ended up winning a national championship. But that was, if we'd gone that quickly, it might not have even have been quite as appreciated, but it's taken a lot of hard work and a lot of close misses to get there. And I feel like sometimes, everyone wants to win everything, always. And that's just, I understand that. But for me, having a lot of, coming up short and being really close and feeling like you maybe deserved a little more and not getting it really all adds to this, making it a little bit more special when it does come right. And now I've actually, as a player, assistant coach and coach, have lost 3 national championships. So maybe it'll make it that much more special when we get over the precipice of that. But those are the things. I mean, that's the beauty of these history and the longevity of if you can stick with sport for a long time, you get all these experiences and they all add up and they make things that much better when you accomplish them down the line.
For sure. Well, thank you, Jamie. I appreciate you sharing your story, and we wish you and Washington all the best for this season and beyond. Thanks for being part of our community. Thanks to our producer, Leanne Johnson. Thanks to you all for watching Why History Matters, our new series on Washington State Legends of Soccer. So more about our organization can be found at wasoccerlegends.org. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.